Welcome back to some more Madden 25. Today we're going to be looking at scouting. It's been a long time since I've done any sort of scouting guide here on the channel, and figured maybe you guys would want to look at some of the insights and really just the things I look for and how I go about scouting and drafting, well, in Madden. And I'll be 100% honest with you. I'm not going to like sugarcoat it and, lie to you. There's a lot of corners that I do cut. And the reason is I feel like once you get a method down and you kind of know what to look for, really, with 60% scouting knowledge on players, most positions, you really don't need much more than that. But obviously, if you don't know those methods, you don't know those trends, you can definitely get even more information. And some of the first things that I would do is look at your scouts. Obviously, for your national, if you're a team like here we are, the Packers, D-end is definitely a high position of need. But the second position, running back, Green Bay's got Josh Jacobs. They got Marshawn Lloyd. Both of those guys are very good players in game and very developable. You don't need those positions. So a lot of the times, which I honestly don't even change my scouts. Like I said, I think just changing the focuses are usually enough, even if you don't have position expertise focuses. But if you are trying to do the whole shebang as try hard as possible, you're trying to make the very best team happen, most of the time, I actually just fire the whole squad because I want to start from the ground up. And more importantly, if I do want some of those guys back, I can just get them back. It's not a big deal. You can literally get them back like it's nothing. Or players that have or coaches, I suppose, scouts that have the exact same strengths as the previous players. And of course, the first thing you're probably going to want to do is look for positions you actually need. Or another thing I like to do is if you have multiple positions, you look for guys that do multiple things well. The smartest thing is to actually go by tier here. But the big thing is, what I'm talking about is for offensive line for the last couple of Maddens now, the interior guys, guards and centers, you can get hidden devs later than tackles. Tackles, you usually need to get them in the first 2 rounds to land players that are decent, whereas inside, you can actually get day 3s that have hidden, and because it's inside offensive line, that is 3 position groups that you are getting expertise on, and even this guy specifically, the tackles themselves. So if you're trying to get the most bang for your buck in a broad sense, going inside lineman and then something like linebacker, like outside linebacker, is probably your best bet because you're getting left out, you're getting right out, you're getting 3 offensive lineman positions. Or another one is safety, where you're getting free safety and strong safety, and in my opinion, one of the harder positions to draft because most of the guys aren't very athletic, and their coverages, they're kind of random, and more importantly, their devs are really, really hard to predict. Wide receiver is also another one of those positions. It really comes down to what your weaknesses are, and personally, like I said, I think wide receiver and safety are the toughest positions to get. Unfortunately, I'm not going to see a level 3 scout that can do that. Oh, I can get safety, wide receiver. So we're going to try and, scout those positions. Like I said, wide receiver and safety are the hardest positions, in my opinion, to draft. So those are going to be the positions that we're going to try to draft well on here. And I feel like if that happens, maybe you'll start to believe that, hey, okay, we're not so bad at this thing. Once again, talking about a level 2 scout, because you can only have 1 level 3 or 3-star and 1 2-star, and the rest are 1-stars. I'm going to go with outside linebacker and inside lineman, unless I can get the versus, which would be inside and then linebacker. DN's not bad either if that's a position of need, which technically it is. So I guess I will go with Rachel Bridges here, who is going to be our offensive lineman and DN person. So that's basically 5 position groups that you're getting there. And then, of course, we're going to drop down to tier 1, which is going to be a bunch of different positions. Now I'm going to start looking at, okay, what do the Packers need? Really not a lot, to be honest. Arguably wide receiver, which we already have a level 3 scout for. What other position are we going to... Let's say tight end corner. That's another position group we haven't really addressed. Linebacker, outside linebacker. Can we do anything else? I'm trying to find something else like running back and something, that's something we don't have a scout for. Running back, inside lineman, don't really need that. Where do we DN tackle? Like I said, I don't really like to go tackle because you have to get those players in the first 2 rounds, and you can easily get 6'4", 6'5" guards that can play tackle. That's usually a move I like to do, just because, like I said, tackle's got to go in the first 2 rounds. You can't really find a gem tackle. It's just not very common. So that's why I usually ignore those positions. I think for this one, I'm going to look for DT. Oh, that's level 10, just 2-star. I'm looking for a DT guy now. DT inside, I mean, that's okay, but I want to get one for each group, which you don't need to. You can definitely stack, which is actually probably a better idea anyways. And there we go. Claudia Morales, DT and middle linebacker. Boom. Which, in theory, if my math is correct, we should have our 5 guys. Always make your National Scout the level 5, no matter what, even if the strengths and weaknesses aren't for your specific scout. And then level 2 and 1, obviously, you're going to go with where the best talent is based on like round projections, which normally, I'm going to be honest with you, like I said, I don't actually pay attention to any of that because I just don't need to. Normally, like I said, 60% is usually going to get the job done. I'm not even sure why I'm looking at this because we obviously have nothing scouted right now. You can argue, you can see some like projections and whatnot. Can we take a look at the regional breakdown? Of course, you can see if we can manage the scouts. We have our national scout actually right there. But nationally, it seems like the strengths are corner, halfback, wide receiver, weaknesses, center, middle linebacker, and left guard. So we are getting one of those strengths through strong safety or through wide receiver, but we're not getting it through strong safety. And then if you look at West, the strengths are cornerback, right end, left guard, and then Central is cornerback, wide receiver, left out. Northeast is going to be cornerback, quarterback, and halfback. And then Southeast, halfback, left tackle, wide receiver. I wish there was a way for them to just like put it on a clipboard for you. But honestly, if you're really going to go in depth, your best bet is to like go into Notepad or something. Or if you're not on like a computer or something, you could, your phone, type it in, write it down, I suppose, because it's really the only way to do it. It's going to be so annoying to, like, remember, okay, what's strong here and this, that, and the other thing. But you could do that if you want. Like, obviously, you can see here, strengths-wise, all of them are cornerback. So you can argue you don't need to write down cornerback, but you can look at the other ones. Like, okay, corner is a strength for all of them, but only Northeast has a quarterback strength. I have a corner and a quarterback heavy scout. That's where I'm going to play them. So that's basically what you're going to do. I'm going to write these down myself and then, coordinate which scout goes where. I'd imagine our level 2 is going to end up going West, but we don't know. Got to figure out the strengths and weaknesses. All right, so looking at our scouts, obviously, if we're set in stone, hey, I don't care how strong or weak the class is, these are the positions we desperately need. Rachel Bridges would make the most sense West because she is strong, is right end and left guard, and you can see inside lineman and D end here, where she's weak at DT, right out, and right tackle. So she is best bet at West for the scouting. And then, of course, you look at tight end corner, D end tackle, and DT with middle linebacker. Obviously, you can end up erasing your West category because you are done placing them. But as far as strengths goes, do we have anyone with DT strength? We don't. So that's kind of ignored. D end strength, we don't have one there either. And tight end strength, we don't. But then we move on to the secondaries. Corner, offensive tackle, and middle linebacker. We already know that all of the places had strengths for cornerbacks. No one had an inside linebacker strength. And then tackle, we did have a Southeast. So I suppose best case scenario, Southeast would go to Strickland. And then realistically, I mean, you kind of just throw this as a toss-up, as once again, there wasn't really a strength for any of them, and all of their weaknesses were kind of equal. I would argue because inside linemen, now we don't even have an inside lineman left. The weaknesses and strengths are so random, it just honestly doesn't matter. So literally just put them anywhere you want at this point. So if you're really trying to go crazy with it, you could, make sure every single one of your scouts is strong for those places. But the expertise is a bonus. It's not a must-have. These scouts are still going to get you information, even if they're not experts in the strengths of that region. It's just it helps even more if they are. Which that was done in week 1, I believe. This is the one thing I'm really kind of bad at, is keeping track of this stuff. I sim all the time on accident past a round that I need to be scouting. Round 3 or week 3 is where you're going to be looking at your regional focus scouting, not your national. National is debatably the strongest one. Well, not even debatably, it is the strongest, but it's debatably like the most important. But as far as you can see here, we got some motion going here with Russell. Some of the other like scouting percentages, it's not going super well so far, but it's very early on, and that's fine. Like I said, when you get to even like 60%, I'm usually pretty fine with guessing from that percentage. But yeah, there's not really much you can do here. I think this is when it kind of like locks them in, if you will. Week 8 is the strongest and most important time besides week 1. And then week, I think, 13, where you get your 3 focus players, which allows you to get even more, because we all know that the privates scouting, the private workouts near the end of the off-season process is really strong too, because you get those 3 percentages where if you got a guy that's like 80%, you get a full 100, hey, are they good or not, basically, for the most part. You have mock drafts as well, which I don't pay attention to, but you could, as the later the mock draft, the more ideally you'll know when a player is likely to go, which is definitely valuable information. But here he is with the national focus. This is actually a position, a move that I usually do, is go for the, once again, biggest group. So for this Packers team, it actually makes a lot of sense because you do need offensive linemen. But you could also do wide receiver because that is, where we're focusing our scout on, and the strengths are there. So if you don't need, one of the strengths that you have, even if you don't need offensive linemen or linebackers, because, like I said, you can get that sweeping amount of players. Like, if you focus the inside lineman group here, that's 3 positions. Left guard, center, and right guard, you're getting a lot of info on. And then if you go outside, that's left out, right out. I have a hard time not keeping on inside linemen. Even when I don't need linemen, this is usually where I place it, because you can land those round 3 steals and gems. But for the purpose of trying to get as much information about wide receivers as we can, we're going to focus scout our wide receivers. 99% of the time, you're going to get almost 90+ percentage for scouting at the position group you set your focus on. So once again, that is going to be a very important timing for you, is week 8. I would argue, if you're going to be lazy with scouting, which I get it's a lot of work, week 8 is the most important week by far. Because that national scouting, it almost guarantees the position group that you're focusing that national scout on, even if it's not their strength, that they're going to give you almost every single amount of scouting points you need for that position group. Which is, once again, like I said, if I need a lot of things, but O-line's kind of, one of those positions that's up there, I usually go with that, because that's 3 position groups that I'm getting a ton of info for. Week 13 is another, decently strong one, as you get a focus. Wait, where's the other one? Focus player. You used to get the prospect as spotlight as well, which was always so hit or miss. They'd be like, hey, you should take a look at this guy. I heard he's really smart, and he's like just a complete bot. But focus players, this is another important time. This is, where you're going to be able to focus up hard on 3 players that, you already have some percentages on. So we don't really need any of those positions. You can already see wide receiver. We're not even done yet. And even though they look pretty bumbly, we get a lot of information on these guys. Graham looks very promising, so that's a guy that I'm willing to scout a little bit further on. Of course, with Deloach, I would like to see that speed, which I don't think I can from this screen. But I guess I'd focus him as well. And then if you're not seeing anyone that looks promising in the slightest, I would usually go with just a completely different position group. Tight end usually scouts enough by, the end where you're about 60%, you get a good idea of, okay, this guy's got really good route running, he's decently fast, he's worth it. Tight end, I would argue, is the easiest position, besides maybe inside linemen, to scout. DT's also quite up there, I got to admit. But at this point, it's really whoever you want. Whatever position group you think makes the most sense. We're not really seeing many, potential ratings. We're actually seeing, almost full-blown at this point. But yeah, random positions. Cornerback's also a pretty easy one. We know this Golson guy is going to be good just based on the fact that he has A-man coverage, B-zone. Same with McDaniels. He's going to be pretty good automatically. This guy we don't know much about. Maybe he's got really good zone, which makes him worth it. Usually try to find a guy with an A or a B in one of those main coverage ratings. It's all over the place, but I'm just going to scout those. I got to be honest, the wide receiver class doesn't look great. But for the most part, I'm pretty damn sure you can't do anything else from here. You're just moving along. And of course, I kind of skipped a little bit ahead, but that's usually what I do anyways, because you get the combine results the first week, then the next week is when you get pro day. So you can usually you go with the pro day. Those are the numbers that are usually the set in stone ones, if you will. Let's actually see what wide receiver ended up with. So pro day you have, let's see, wide receiver. You can see 95% scouted for the most part, and then we have a couple of guys that we did scout into the 100s, which I'm not really a fan of Graham here. Usually 2 to 3 is going to mean low 70s if you're lucky, could be worse. And then, of course, that dev is going to suffer. But at 4.38 and being 6'2", you can make that argument. Looking at some of the other guys, you can see that their talent grades are actually shown up pretty nicely here. You have Benedict, who is a 1 to 2 projected. He's 23 years old. Now, this is one of those players that doesn't quite have it, but I sometimes have a special build, which is almost the agility build. It's weird because you see the F deep route, F release. Sometimes when you see those really weird ratings, those are actually the signs that they're a special archetype player, which means they're weak at those positions, but in general, they have a chance to be a pretty high overall. I wonder if there's any other like archetypes similar to that. We have a 2-3. You used to have the max speed archetype, which it's 50-50. You get normal or superstar, but you're always getting a fast player. Doesn't seem like we're going to have that here. We do have a 4.26 guy, but he's not a sleeper. But you can see elite speed, great excel. He's a 1 to 2 talent grade, so you would expect, even though those ratings look a little raw, he would probably be at least star dev, and that he would be somewhere around the 72 to 74 range. But then you also have Muldrow, who's a round 1 with a round 1 grade. The problem is he looks really weak with his ratings, and his speed's not good. Usually the round 1 talent is almost guaranteed, though, so I'm really interested to see what Muldrow himself looks like here, as he is a 76 overall. It's very weird because even though we could see that his speed doesn't look great and his actual key ratings look really bad, it's just untrue. That's the most important thing you could look at besides the athleticism ratings is the actual talent grade. I don't remember the last time I was actually lied to with the talent grade. Maybe the dev could be off, but if it says round 1 or top 5, they are going to be a high overall. I don't think I've ever been deterred by that. Let's take a look at the dev, which is star, which is pretty damn good. Star dev with really good ratings, 90 speed. He's only 5'11", but that's fine. That is so fine. I really didn't want to look at that because you can argue that now I have a whole bunch of information that I didn't before. But yeah, once again, you would bet on Samuels being good. You would bet on Mitchell being good. The 2 to 3s are a little iffy, but this is where you would look at, if we can look at is it the physicals? No, we're looking at the attributes. The attributes is where you would be looking at. As far as, where these attributes go, like I said, wide receiver is hands down the hardest to scout because, like we see with Muldrow, their ratings don't always tell you how good they are. You could see an F release here, an F deep route, and a D spec catch, but the guy has a 1 to 2 grade. Let's actually see how good Benedict is. Because with a 1 to 2 grade, he should be somewhere in the 70s. And that's where it is. 74 overall. Let's actually see what his deep route rating was. Because once again, we've seen an F for release, F for deep route. And you can see 64, 65. But the other ratings, which weren't even all that great, there was a couple of Bs, a couple of As, I will say, those are carrying his overall. So once again, the biggest thing, even though he's normal dev, it's fine because he's a good overall. The biggest thing you can look at is 100% that talent grade, which is why it is kind of important, especially if it's a position you can't miss on because you're selling so hard or your roster is just not good. It's going to give you the best information possible. And if you're not going to get that, but you really need the position, they're kind of 50-50, always go athleticism. Because the worst case scenario with a guy like James Samuels, let's say his talent grade was 2 to 3, but you just need a wide receiver desperately, you're getting a guy that you just can't build. It's impossible to build a guy with that kind of speed on your own. So realistically, like I said, wide receiver is the toughest. The one thing, if you really want wide receiver, get your national scout out there, make it focus on wide receiver, and try to get as much of this talent grade, this true talent grade, known as possible, and you're going to make a good educated guess that someone in the 2 to 3 range or higher, especially 1 to 2, is going to be good. And if you can't get that, 40 time. 100% 40 time. We showed it already with attributes. The attributes are all over the place. It is so hard to find attributes that actually matter. I would actually even argue that they might be glitched. It would not surprise me. This is the one position where I find great players despite their actual potentials all the time. We can see Graham here. He has an A catch of traffic, A spec, but he has a D catching. Let's actually see. Does Graham have a true D catching? That's what I want to know. Graham's catching is 77. That is not a D. These are high ratings, and that is fair. 77 is indeed. This is why I always say it is the toughest position to scout. That's the one, if you really need a wide receiver, you're going to want to put all that scouting points in there. But as far as quarterback goes, this one's a little bit easier, I think. It's not easy to know what their dev is. That's going to be all over the place. But obviously you can see here, looking at these quarterbacks, we already know, just based on what we can see, Donaldson's decent, and so is Escobar. Are they amazing? Don't know. But they're decent. I would argue, depending on his and Landry's speed, they're going to be the 88, 89 speed archetype guys, which you can see here. Speed is good. Probably a little lower than 89, 90. Solid throw power is very low, though. I will admit it's probably 88 throw power. But let's actually see if Landry is good. My guess would be 69 overall star, but the devs can go anywhere. Where is Landry? He is a 68 overall, but are we going to get that star dev? That's what I'm wondering. And we do. So it's hard. Like I said, it's not guaranteed, but there are archetypes to this. Speed is also way lower than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to be honest. Maybe I was looking at rows. But either way, those archetypes, you do see that their devs a lot of times are pretty, you're not going to see higher than star usually. The scrambler archetype with like the just good enough throw power, they're going to likely be star. I'm not saying they will be, but these are the trends you kind of notice. We talked about Donaldson and Escobar. We figured they'd be pretty damn good. And hell, I would argue that their bad ratings were better than they even said they were. So not really shocked by that. Running back is another hit or miss position, but it's a position that usually you get a decent overall. It's just you don't know about the dev. But let's see if we can look at some of these attributes, see if we can get a good idea. This is another position where you just aren't getting accurate stuff. But if you like power backs, you can almost always land a really good power back. As you can see here, Alvarado and Kitchens are probably really good overalls. I would guess somewhere in the 74 to 76 range. The problem is they're not going to be that fast. As you can see, they're not very fast. You have a break tackle. Running back, you're going to easily find power backs, but as far as like elusive guys, they're so damn hit or miss. It's kind of crazy. What position? We actually are on the right position here, actually. Where the hell were we? Am I missing something here? I'm like so lost to where we are. There we are. Maybe I was looking at the wrong guy, actually. But Low, another guy that you would expect to be pretty damn good just because that A trucking, 4.45 speed. This is a guy that's 75, 76 overall. Let's actually take a look. Low, Chris Low, those are the types of running backs I always like to go for. I don't like to go in the first 2 rounds. But Low, 75 overall, 28 in the second round. So you compare him to someone like, I'm trying to think of like an actual power back. These guys are more elusive. It's real random about where they're going to go. This guy actually really good with that juke move. We don't have any other power backs. Low, you could see him from a mile away, right? Because that trucking is so high. We knew he was going to be a 75 overall. The devs are always hit or miss with running back. I would guess star, though, and he is normal. So you get really unlucky with that. Usually they're normal or star. You're not going to usually get superstar. Some of these other running backs, though, like Alvarado, we figured he was going to be pretty good. Let's take a look at his ratings. Of course, not the fastest. We already knew that. Dev, star. It's so random you're going to get good dev because you look at the scouting process and you're like, there's no way I would take Alvarado over Low. Low looked way better. Kitchens, another guy we looked at just off of first glance. It's almost always the power backs. If you need a running back and you don't mind having a quote-unquote power back, what makes these guys a power back isn't the fact that their main thing is trucking and stiff arm, because they still do have good juke move. It's that their change of direction sucks. That's what you're really missing with these guys. As you see, Low, 77 change of direction. Alvarado, 78. Kitchens, 79. The other guys that actually are elusive, even though their ratings might not be the best juke move-wise, he's fast, he's got good change of direction. So if that does matter to you, most of the time, I just look for ball carrier vision / awareness / I guess juke move, but juke move is usually pretty low for these guys, and then 40 time, because at the end of the day, a running back, you can make even a 60 overall look good if they're fast. It's all about blocking. And then we talked about tight end. We don't know if we're going to have any good tight ends here, but it is easily, in my opinion, the easiest position to draft. You really, most of the time, just look for route running, which unfortunately we don't actually have much information here. But you could see here, this guy's in 3 to 4. Kevin Phillips, what's his actual pro day? What's his 40 time? Kevin Phillips, Unfortunately, he's not the fastest, but I would be willing to bet Kevin Phillips is pretty good. But let's see if we can do anything else with attributes. We obviously know Quincy's good. I mean, look at these ratings. A catch of traffic, A spec. You already know he's going to be good. Is there any other, like, kind of sneaky picks? Ritz, if he's okay, I suppose. Richardson, maybe a bet on. Phillips, we already know about. That's not who I was looking at. Reitz, the awareness does suck, which usually means his overall is not going to be the best, but he's got good enough medium route and catching to where if he is athletic, I would take a chance, but he's really not that athletic. So the guys I would bet on are obviously Quincy, maybe Richardson, and then I would guess Phillips is definitely a decent player. That's who I want to take a look at, though. First would be Phillips, who is a 74 overall. You look at all those players, we skipped all the over all the other guys. Richardson, like I said, was a maybe. We knew Quincy was going to be good because he was so obvious, but Phillips was the highest overall. We took a guess because of, you know, some of those route running and ratings and whatnot, and we got it right. So obviously, tight end, like I said, is the easiest position to get, or I should say scout. The problem is it's so random if you're going to get a good class or not. You know, sometimes you get one of those classes where there's 3-4 guys that have a 4 or 5 40, and then sometimes you just get nothing. Of course, Quincy, we expected to be good. Didn't expect him to be X Factor good, though, I will admit. But those are those positions. Trying to speed this up a little bit because I'm doing a lot of yapping. Let's move on to tackle. Like I said, this is a position I usually ignore. I usually ignore tackles because they usually need to be very high. So not just that, but there's not even many guys projected outside of the first 2 rounds. And honestly, if you're looking at this group of players, which we don't have a lot of information on, the only guy I would really feel comfortable taking, and it's hard to do because I don't have much information, is probably Duncan. Let's take a look at how good Duncan. I really think he's the only guy I'd feel okay with, and even then, I don't know a lot about him. And of course, you can see these guys actually aren't bad, but Duncan, the 73 overall, let's take a look at what those ratings are. 6'8", which is sick as well. Star Dev. That's what you would consider a good pick, but that's the problem. First round player, star dev, 73 overall, not worth it. But assuming we didn't get screwed over here, this is where you make your money. And we actually did get screwed over. You can see projections-wise. Damn, okay, so the right guard did save us a little bit, but left guard center, there's not much depth. There's really not much depth. Looking at the left guard position, let's take a look. So, of course, one of the things you're going to notice, especially about inside linemen, is they're mainly good pass blockers and bad run blockers. If I were to bet on these guys, I wouldn't bet on someone 23, but maybe I'd be a little more willing than normal. I don't like any of these linemen. I think Brian, because once again, we're looking at another guy that has an archetype. He is a 343-pounder. I would bet on him because of that. Of course, 38 bench press reps, another kind of archetype, the strong, heavy guy. If he's not hidden, I would be very surprised. And this was the guy we're looking at, right? He's a massive dude. But looking at his player ratings, he's a superstar. You know, he's got the big body archetype. That's what I would consider that archetype. And of course, Griffin was also one of those types. You can see 74 overall. Looking at their actual ratings, they're going to be raw as hell, specifically in the run block department, but they have the big body, strong archetype. That's another archetype for offensive linemen. Also, just in general, really high strength. I'm not going to say 30 to 36 reps matters too much usually, but if they have something in the 40s, I would genuinely be shocked if they weren't amazing. And of course, looking at the offensive linemen, seems like this is the only decent player. And yeah, this is a slam dunk. This is a guy that he might not be very good at run blocking, but you're going to get yourself... I would be shocked if they weren't hidden dev, but you're going to get yourself a guy that's in the 70s. Probably, you know, semi-low, but should be good. Oh, 76, higher than I actually thought. That run block, you know, those ratings, they kind of vary. But if he's not hidden, yeah, if he's hidden dev, I would have been shocked. This is why when I focus on O-line, I focus on the interior. A lot later round guys... And usually, especially at this right guard position, more depth at those positions. And then we look at the other attributes, like you can see right away. I think we all kind of gravitated towards them. Bass is by far the best, right? You can see an A awareness, B pass block, A pass block power, A pass block finesse, and then we're talking about it again. The run block's a little iffy. These are to me the guys you want to bet on, though. It's usually, for the interior guys, they suck at run block. I don't know why that's the archetype, but let's take a look at him. Right guard, Bass, 74 overall. We have some other guys that are pretty high overall, too. But 74 overall for Bass, just, you know, the first guy we looked at. because he looks so obvious, right? If he's not hidden, I'd be shocked. And once again, he's star dev. So like I said, interior linemen, those are the money makers when it comes to drafting hidden dev linemen. And then we look at right tackle. We see round 1 to 2, round 1 to 2. We don't know much about them, but what we do know is this guy doesn't look very good. And then if I were to bet, which I wouldn't want to, I would say Lions looks the best out of all of them. So let's take a look, especially with that age, if that would have been the right call. And Lions is the highest of them all, 74 overall. You're looking for as many A's and B's as possible, right? That's what you're looking for when you're quote-unquote, going in blind, which once again, like I said, I think you can know pretty much all you need to know about most positions based on just 60% scouting. Left end, right end, this is where it gets a little tougher. It is the most volatile when it comes to hidden dev. I mean, you find so many different types of guys that are either there's another type. I wonder if we can find one where they're 5'11". That was a big one last Madden. If they're 5'11", they're almost always superstar dev. We're not going to see one here, unfortunately. But looking at the attributes, the things you're going to be looking for is that A in one of the ratings, either pass rushing or block shedding. As we can tell, Burrows, he could be good. He absolutely could be good. I've seen it all the time. But are you betting on him is the thing. B, block shed, C, power move. Am I betting on that? Probably not. Whereas a guy a little bit later than him, Springs, has an A block shed with A play rec, B awareness, A tackle. He looks very similar to him. Obviously, these aren't edge rushers anyways. They're DT types. That's what you're usually going to see, an A block shed or an A in power or finesse move with a C block shed. Little surprise, honestly, to see that Springs doesn't have that, but he could, I guess, have that with his power move, in fairness. And then, you have another guy here. I wouldn't bet on this guy either. Maybe the block shed is a B, but usually that's just not worthy. And then after the first round or two, left end, right end is usually where it gets pretty tough to find someone good. This guy's at 3 to 4. He is also 23 years old. This is almost your best bet if you're not going to be going really high, though. You're not going to usually get a good edge rusher that is outside of the first round. That's one of the positions you're going to want to go pretty high with, at least when it comes to guarantees. Looking at these players, though, I would feel pretty confident that Russell is decent, but Springs is at least a 74 overall star. Now, once again, Dev is always hit or miss, but Springs would be the guy I would bet on. 73 overall with 75 speed. What is the Dev? Could, like I said, be all over the place. Superstar Dev, that's a great Dev, obviously. What about those ratings? He has 79 block shed, which is insane, and then 66 power move, which we would have learned probably pretty quickly that he wasn't a very good power move guy. He's a DT type, so that makes sense. And then Russell, he's got that A finesse. He's going to suck at stopping the run, but that's not what you care about your edge rusher for anyways. You develop them as a pass rusher first, block shedder later. 82 finesse move. Only normal Dev, but 82 finesse move with athleticism. That is a good pick. Dev, once again, is just random. You get lucky, you don't get lucky. But 82 finesse move, that is a great base rating. And then I guess we should go looking a little later. We did have some of these guys here. I'm sorry if this video is a little longer than I would like to. This is kind of where I just, like I said, I look for things that I look for. So Barry George, he's 23 years old. He's already going to be a long shot. I probably wouldn't look to him. And then we have Carter, potential, B power move. I don't like the block shed, obviously, but he has a B tackle. We look at the physicals, which we can see that he has, this is even what I'm looking for. Solid speed, acceleration's good. This is a guy maybe because he's day 3. Let's take a look. I wouldn't put much stock into him, though. One of my favorite things to say is bet on them. But yeah, I wouldn't have put much stock into any of these players, but if you're desperate, sometimes I do this, especially if I need edge, I'll go with someone that has like a B in the power move or finesse move department. He's insanely raw, and you're going to get normal there. So this is one of the toughest positions to draft. I still think safety's the toughest, but pass rusher is right up there. It is 100% right up there. I'm not going to argue with that. Then we move on to right end, which we're seeing a really slow Trayvon Harrell. That already almost makes me instantly not want to grab him. So, I'm likely not going to grab him automatically because of the lack of speed. It is so important for a pass rusher to have that, and he just doesn't, right? Looking at the 40 time, a 4.84. What about the attributes? A power move, but 6'6", 265. I don't think I draft him. Looking at some of the other positions, Noel, He looks pretty good. You know, a B power move, B block shed. I would guess at least a 72 overall. And then looking at some of the other positions, you can take a chance at Hayward if he's fast, I would say. Which we can see that he is 4.67. So I would say this guy has a chance to be halfway decent, developable. And then Noel would be the only other guy I would go with. I'd say Harrell would be good, but he's going to be slow, which kind of makes him not good automatically. Let's take a look if we were anywhere near right. Noel, 70 overall. I thought 72 in fairness. Would I have taken him? Maybe. Normal development rate, unfortunately, but yeah, you're going to want a guy that probably has an A in one of the departments. And I'll be honest with you, Harrell's even faster than I would have thought. You're betting on that power move, which was good, but not great. What's the dev? Superstar dev. That's a win of a pick. But you're weighing your options. If he's your last option, you maybe take him because you have no other pass rusher. But I don't think you take him with the lack of speed if he wasn't. And then we look at Hayward, which, I mean, I wouldn't have taken him because he's 23, but 83 speed. Let's see if he was actually halfway usable with that finesse, was it? Finesse move was 76. That is a usable player. He's normal dev, but that would be a good player if you land him in the third round, in my opinion, except for the fact that he's 23. You look for someone that's, you know, typically 22. Another one of the easier positions to grab, though, defensive tackle. Let's see if we actually got lucky here. We have 1, 3 to 4, and you can see almost all of them are pretty damn athletic. Bench press reps. Hood looks amazing with 40, 38 for Barber, 33 for Waddle. Let's take a look at those attributes. Let's see if there's anyone clear cut. And I got to be honest with you, this would be pretty disappointing to me because I would consider this a pretty damn bad draft class. I would not be grabbing Waddle. He could be good, but I can't bet on that. We also have an A finesse move here later. Day 3, I would maybe take the chance, although he's 23. So this is what I would consider to be a pretty damn bad draft class. The only DT I would take a chance on is German, and even he I don't really feel great about. But a B in finesse, a B in power move, I think is enough for me to be like, okay, I'll take the chance. I think he's an interesting archetype. I'll take that chance. He is a 72 overall, like I said, with Waddle. I wouldn't have taken that chance. And then Hood and Barber had great strength with their bench press reps, so that automatically gives you a pretty good chance. But German, let's take a look. Pretty athletic. Unfortunately, normal dev. Actually, no. I'm not done yet. Because if they're normal dev, what you want to look for is how good their actual ratings are. Let's see what he was looking like. 2 Bs, so once again, could hit or miss. And he does have 76 power move, which I would consider in the second round to be good. It's good. It's not great, but it's good. And then for left outside linebacker, pass rusher, it's really hard to miss if you're taking someone up in this round. Now, we don't have the information. Actually, no, we do have the information. Any one of these 3 guys, they could all be normal. They could all be superstar. But any one of these 3 guys, based on the fact that they have an A power move, an A finesse, and an A finesse, they are good pass rushers automatically. And then if you look at their 40 times, they have pretty good 40 times along with it. I would argue Graham, Vincent, and Hairston will all be good. They will all be at least good. We don't know what their devs are going to be, but I think... Oh, I kind of cheated there. And yeah, as you can see, they're all good. 73 overall, 74 overall, and 74. I got to be honest, I thought Graham would be faster than that, but all their overalls are high. They're all... Well, maybe not high, but they're good. X factor for the slowest guy, so that's a dub automatically. Then Derek Vincent, we look at his dev, star dev, that's a win. Not as good as X factor, but he's athletic. Then we look at Hairston, another guy we thought would be good. Automatically, you know, assuming the first rounders, he's superstar, which is amazing. Automatically, the first rounders, 95% of the time, are going to be pass rushers for linebacker. So if you're not looking for a pass rusher, usually you can just kind of skip right past the first round because they're almost always edge rushers. Then we look at middle linebacker. This is another kind of easy position. As you can see, 40 times. I typically just don't go for players that aren't fast in general. But Castillo, I think 4.59 is good enough. 4.55 is great. 4.41 Bigsby is great. James at 4.39 is great. The best part about this position, the easiest part about this position drafting-wise, isn't even really looking at their ratings, which I gotta say are actually pretty damn good. Zone coverage gives you a pretty good idea. You can see Bigsby looks like he's going to be great. James looks like he's going to be amazing. Is that speed? If they're fast, they're automatically good. 99% of the time, if they're a 4.5 or faster, they're in the 70 overall range. And as you can see here, that's going to be the case. All the fast players that we looked at were all 70 plus. And it's just another really easy position to grab when they're athletic. And I will say, it seems like EA might have grabbed or drew up more 2 to 3 pass rushers, edge rushers. Obviously, you can see their archetype most of the time. That is going to be correct. Let's take a look at his ratings. B finesse, that is kind of iffy. I would not take this guy. Weary could be good, but I'm not banking on a B to D finesse and a B block shed. Norwood looks okay. Didn't really look at the pass rushers or the off balls, but I would guess that Long looks pretty damn good because, you're looking at some of those A's in there. The more A's and B's you see for the most part, those are going to be the guys that are going to be good. So speed for linebacker, and then, of course, just looking for one attribute that you can work with, a B or specifically an A for the finesse. I wanted to, take another guess at who was going to be good here. Norwood looked like he was going to be decent because he's fast. And then was it Driscoll? I think it was actually Long that we bet on. But once again, for a guy that is a little bit on the slower side, I'll admit, I would maybe even still bet on Driscoll more because of the speed. But Long should be a good overall, and Norwood should at least be usable. Norwood, 68 overall, and then, of course, Long, 75 overall. But yeah, Norwood, like I said, it's just so 50-50. He's athletic like we expected, not star dev. I wouldn't grab him, simply put. I wouldn't have done it, but Long, obviously very easy to see, athletic and, semi-athletic, and then had those really good ratings. Corner, another one of the easier positions to get, at least in the first round. Looking at some of the guys you would look at. Golson because he's fast, Dobbs because he's pretty fast, McDaniels because he's pretty fast. We already knew McDaniels and Golson were going to be good just based on the A and B man to zone. Sally is pretty fast, Ware's pretty fast. Really easy players to find for the most part. We don't have much scouted, but you already automatically know Golson's going to be amazing. McCoy is probably going to be good. McDaniels is going to be very good. Ware might be good. We don't know much about Hobbs, but usually if they're A to C, they're going to be good if they have a B in zone already. And then the rest, this is where it's super hit or miss. There's also other archetypes. I don't know if they toned them down a lot, but the 6'4", 6'5" archetypes, those guys are always almost usable. Dev is so hit or miss. Usually they're going to be either superstar or normal, no in between. But we do not get a 6'4", 6'5" archetype. You can maybe bet on Stinson, but I really don't like it. The B to C there. But we talk about the other guys. You also have a top 5 talent where with the A zone, the A press, the C man coverage. I don't really like C man coverage, but with that top 5 talent grade, we know he's going to be good. But obviously the top 2 corners in this class are going to be Golston and they're going to be McDaniels. I also think catching kind of plays a little bit of a factor. But let's take a look. So the best 3 players in this cornerback class are going to be Golston, McDaniels, and Ware. And I would also say McCoy is probably going to be good. Which you can see, Golston, 78 overall. Was it McDaniels? 77 overall. Ware, 77 overall. And then we said that McCoy we thought was going to be pretty good, 74 overall. We don't know the devs, but we obviously knew Golston was going to be, the best player with McDaniels right up next to him. Normal dev, but that doesn't matter. It just simply doesn't matter. 94 speed with 80 man, 75 zone is great. Would you have loved to have dev as well? Sure, but it's really hit or miss. You don't know what you're going to get with those devs. Those devs are always going to be random. Star is usually what you're going to get with someone that looks that good, but we didn't get lucky there today. Let's see Ware, who is a top 5 graded player, superstar dev. Like I said, the biggest thing you can do is get information on what their true talent is. It really is. Okay, now we look at the hardest position by far, in my opinion, and that is safety. So obviously the first things you're going to be looking at, I don't really like a block shed because even in a block shed, it's probably going to be under 65. But the biggest thing is obviously going to be zone and man. You can definitely get good safeties that have great man coverage, not a whole lot of zone. Maybe a sneaky pick would be Swift down here later. But as far as free safety goes, it looks like clear-cut. The best player is Muldrow. Let's take a look at the pro day. And wow, the first safety looks really slow. So Muldrow for sure is the best free safety in my opinion. And then we look at strong safety. We have Miles, who is a hybrid type. So that would mean because he has a zone coverage of C, I would say his man coverage is at least C, might be a B. A B for Browning and a B for Wake. So the best 3 are going to be Miles, Browning, and Wake, with Browning and Wake being the 2 best. Those are the main ratings you're going to be looking at. Let's take a look at the 40 time. And you can see it's not great, but you can work with a 4.52, 4.52. I think Miles, Browning, and Wake would be the best. And like I said, Browning and Wake higher than Miles. And then, of course, for free safety, it's without a doubt Muldrow. So let's take a look and see if we are correct. Free safety, tied for the highest, but once again, you're looking at these two. Who would you rather have? 84 speed Edwards or 91 speed Muldrow? It's not even close. Even has better zone. Strong safety, Miles. Even better than I thought, actually. It's because of the man coverage. 76 man coverage. But personally, I like a guy that's just really good at zone. Browning and Wake both had 78 and 80 zone. Don't know their devs, but that doesn't matter. If you have somebody that's in the 70s, they're decent. If they're 73 plus, that's a good pick, as long as they're not either too old or too slow. Other than that, they're always a good pick. Kicker, punter, there's really nothing to it. You look for, in my opinion, kick power. So you can see here, 99 kick power, 80 accuracy, which makes him generational, I would guess. And then Nicholson's also 97 kick power with 77 accuracy. You can see superstar dev, he was generational. And when we back out of this, you'll see how easy it is to see, if they're good or not, because all you have to do is look for is power. So really don't even need to look at accurate. But was it Castaneda? I think he was the guy. He should have elite. And you can see on the left side, elite kick power. If you see A accuracy and elite kick power, you're guessing a very high overall hidden dev. Automatically, elite kick power makes them worth taking. It's probably going to be one of those drafts where you just don't draft punter. Elite kick power. So there you go. McCormick, is worth it. McCormick is 100% worth it. He might even be generational. So is Bacon. He's also worth it, which at that point you would be looking at accuracy. Mobley, not bad because of accuracy, but his power sucks, which means he sucks. So McCormick, he has a B accuracy. And then Bacon has a D accuracy. So obviously if you're choosing between the two, it's going to be McCormick every single day of the week. Which I was just about to draft him. I completely forgot we're not in the draft. Let's take a look at McCormick. Punter, surprisingly a lower overall, but did have higher accuracy. Hidden dev, normal dev. Okay, I'm a little surprised by that. D accuracy just completely lied to us. But yeah, McCormick was a better kick accuracy guy by a lot. I think it's just awareness that's making him look better. Bacon look better, but obviously McCormick was the better of the two punters. And then I'll be honest with you, fullback, it is so randomly hit or miss. Most of the time, though, they're going to suck. Phillips, 76 overall. Let's take a look at what makes him a 76 overall. Because a lot of the times, because all the fullbacks suck, one guy, he even has like a 66 run block. It's going to give him an A because the rest of the class sucks. You can see here, how would we ever know this guy's a 76 overall? He's elite speed. Maybe that's what it is. Trucking, I think that is what it is, actually. He's a high overall because he's a running back type, not a blocker. That's what it is. But normally for blocking, you're just rarely going to know. If you need a fullback, just go for the fastest guy, especially since blocking in this game is so random. But you can see this guy. He has an A run block. A. What does an A run block get you as a fullback? Richards, you can see 72 overall, not bad at all. 71 run block. Is that really an A? I mean, I don't know. I would just go for speed every time for fullback. If you need a fullback bad, just go for speed. And of course, looking at the mock draft, once again, this is going to give you a decent idea of who's going to go top tier. So if you need quarterback, you want Donaldson, you pretty much argue you need the first pick overall. Escobar, you need a top 3 pick. And all these other positions, that's the way it is. Yeah, those are kind of the tips that I would go for. Like I said, I think 60% scouting is really enough on its own, which is why most of the time I do go lazy mode. I don't change my scouts out. I don't make sure that I have the right national scout on. The biggest thing I do is make sure week 8, I'm nationally scouting a position I really need. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest tip I can give anyone, is that. And the wiener, of course. And then, of course, focus scouting when you can. That's really the other one. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed this one, maybe leave a like, subscribe if you're new. If you're not new, I do appreciate continued support on the channel. Follow me on Twitter, Jeromepkr, second channel, PKR Plays for now, Madden content. And that is basically it for our scouting guide. I really thought this was going to be a lot shorter of a video. I was like, how do I even make this 20-30 minutes to make it interesting? It's going to be longer than that. Anyway, should be another video or two later today, and that's about it. Thanks for watching. I'll let you guys come back for next video, but until next video,